So I have a relatively simple story to tell. I mean, it does involve 347 meters of a continuous spodumene pegmatite, but yeah, my name is Alicia Milne. I'm the president and CEO of Q2 Metals Corp. I'm going to be saying some forward-looking statements in this presentation, so I invite you to go to our presentation on our website and have a look at those. We're Q2 Metals. We're a Canadian mineral exploration company listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, and we actually have two projects in the Nemaska traditional territory of the EU Ishi James Bay region of Quebec, Canada. As I mentioned, I'm the president and CEO. Neil McCallum, he's our vice president exploration, and he's had lots of experience in the James Bay region. He was one of the original stakers of the Corvette project, which is now known as the Shakachuanan project, held by Patriot Battery Metals, which many of you may be familiar with. We have a couple other board members here, mostly independent, and we've been building out our team over the last year. So we have Chris Ackerman, who's heading up our corporate development, Jason McBride, who's our investor relations manager. Here's a quick look at our share structure. This was a few weeks back. Our share price is slightly off, but market cap of about $140 million right now, and we have about $11 million cash on hand in our bank account. What's to note on this page is that we were recognized as being in the TSX top 50 of 2024. I believe we were number 3 overall in mining companies and number 9 overall in that top 50. And here's a quick look at our Cisco project. Completely opposite end of the world from the previous presentation here. We're in Quebec, and currently that project is under about 3-4 feet of snow. Up in the top corner there, you can see our CO1 outcrop, which is the initial discovery area that the vendors had discovered back in 2022, 2023. And then at the bottom there, that's hole 23. That would be our last hole of our summer program last year. This is the overall James Bay area. So you can see our MIA project, which was our first foray into the James Bay region, and Cisco down there at the lower half of the James Bay region. What's to note in this area, you can see up at the top portion of that map there, you have your Shakachuanan Corvette project, you have your Winsome's Adena project, Rio Tinto Galaxy project in the middle there, and we're at the very bottom of that map. We're 150 kilometers north of the town of Matagami, which is the railhead for the Canadian National Railway. We're the closest company to infrastructure. The Quebec government has plans to eventually push the railway up north to the town of Radisson. We would be literally less than 10 kilometers off that railway. Here's just a quick overview of the actual project claims. In November, December, we actually acquired additional ground, which sort of covers off the road. As at that point, we were well aware of what we potentially had and decided to get some more ground to cover off potential development scenarios in the future. As I mentioned, the vendors of the project originally got out there 2022, 2023. They did some work on the project, which we went and viewed in, actually it was January 2024, so just a year ago. They had mapped and sampled a kilometer by kilometer area. They had done some drilling. And in the last 3 holes of their 6-hole drill program, they started hitting some pretty significant intervals of spodumene pegmatite. You can see hole 5 there hit 48 meters at 1.36% lithium oxide, and hole 6 hit another 22 meters and 19 meters as well. What's to note though is hole 5 actually ended in mineralization. And I think that the vendors at that point realized that they might be better stakers or prospectors than operators, and that's when they decided to sell it. We already had a history with the vendors, so it was a pretty smooth process coming to terms with them. And again, it was just a year ago, this past February, that we actually came to an agreement with them and bought the project. So the first thing we did is we got out there and we, in June 2024, started expanding on their mapping and sampling of what they did. And we mapped and sampled 23 different outcropping areas. And you can see there that we extended their 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer area to a 1.9 kilometer by 1.5 kilometer sort of strike length. We also got out there drilling right away. So we knew where they had drilled. The first 6 holes are at the top of that map there. And we started drilling as well assuming that the mineralization was trending east-west. As we got around to about hole 7 or 8, we started realizing that the mineralization was actually trending to the south. And as we started coming down around the south, we started hitting some pretty significant intervals. So you can see hole 10 there, 120 meters at 1.72% Li2O. Hole 18 was, I think that's when we realized we were onto something amazing, and that was 215 meters at 1.69%. And then, as mentioned, the 347-meter interval at hole 21 there with 1.35%. Our last hole this season, which you saw in that last picture there, was 188 meters at 1.56%. And what's also to note in that hole is that it ended in mineralization. So that just meant that the trend was 850 meters running north-south and was open in all directions. Here's just a quick picture of what the landscape of the area looks like. You can see the 850-meter distance there from CO1 outcrop down to that last hole. And you can see it's predominantly a forested area where the forestry companies have cut blocks. They come in, they harvest the trees, replant them, and rinse and repeat for the next 10 years or so. Here's a few quick cross sections, just sort of displaying the actual drilling that we did, the meterage that we're getting there of continuous spodumene, and it just essentially shows that it's all hanging together. This is a picture that caught a lot of attention. This is what that 347-meter interval looked like. The geos had quite a lot of fun here laying it down and getting the drone up in the air to take a picture of themselves laying beside it. Here's a couple other quick cross sections, just showing that the mineralization is hanging together as it continues to trend. And you can see to the southeast there, there's additional outcrops that we had yet to test. During the off-season, we did do some surface and downhole measurements with the televiewer, and that's essentially sticking a camera down the hole and measuring the structural indications in there. And just to prove to ourselves and to show that we're actually drilling true width. And again, in the off-season, we did some mineralogy work, and the mineralogy work actually just showed that spodumene was the primary lithium-bearing mineral within the pegmatite. And then in the future, in the next couple months here, we're going to be doing some additional work to essentially show that we can use DMS processing. That brings us to this winter. We're drilling right now. We have 2 drill rigs out there. This is what it looks like. There's a lot more snow right now. And the plans for the wintertime was to drill 6,000 to 8,000 meters, 2 drill rigs, and just continue to step out to the south and to the east. To the south, 200 to 400 meter step outs, to continue along that strike length, to continue to see what else was out there. At the end of last year, we'd only had 23 holes into the project, and we're already coming up with some amazing results. So the goal of the winter program was to get out there and actually see what else there is. So to the south and to the east. To the east, we've got a few holes in there. Not spectacular intercepts, because I think we set the bar quite high for ourselves. Still hitting some really good intercepts there, though, 21 meters, 36 meters. But what's to note here is hole 27 to the south. That's a 200-meter step out from hole 23, that last hole of the season. Hole 27 there hit 179-meter length of continuous spodumene-bearing mineralization. And then what's also to note is that right underneath that, there's another 58-meter interval, and then just below that, there was another 91.8-meter interval. That drill core is all out for assaying right now. And also, hole 27 ended in mineralization, but that was at a depth of about 620 meters. This is an overview of our long section, just essentially showing all of our drilling to date from that CO1 outcrop down to where we currently are, which is right around underneath the CO 13, 20, 21 outcrops. And we're just going to continue to step out along that trend. We have another 850 meters that we could go, and the system is still looking like it's open to the south. Here is a schematic that our geology team came up with, and red is good. Red is the pegmatite, spodumene-bearing pegmatite, and it just sort of shows the evolution of our drilling and our knowledge as we've gone. You can see hole 21 there with that big, huge red intercept of spodumene was to note hole 18 there, 72% of that hole was mineralized. That last hole that I just pointed out, hole 27, 56% of that hole was mineralized. And again, it ended in mineralization. So, there's a lot to be discovered on this project. There's an overview shot of what the Cisco project looks like and just the distance between that CO1 outcrop and then hole 27 that we've reported on and hole 26. And currently, the drill is probably to the north of Rig 1, heading over towards another outcrop in the area that we've named CO2. It's a pretty significant outcrop, very well mineralized, and we're very eager to see what's underneath there. And then the rig number 2 is also continuing to the south to continue to test that. Upcoming catalysts, drill baby drill is what we're doing. Right now we're drilling until probably mid-April, another 2 weeks of drilling. We'll wind that up, and then we take a break for the traditional goose harvesting season. That goes from April 15th to May 15th. There's some caribou calving time in there, so we'll get back out there essentially June 1st and start mapping and sampling again, get the drills up and running. In that time, we'll be issuing visual results from the holes that we're currently drilling now, and assays will start flowing as soon as the lab turns them around and gets them out. And yeah, we'll continue on until September. We have to take another break for moose hunting season, and then the plan right now is to continue drilling, essentially. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.